On today's premiere episode of Talkin Townball, we have Bryan Mccallum here, better known as the Townball Schedule Guy on Twitter. We catch up with him regarding his online project, the state of Townball, and more about his story. Great guy, great interview. Excited for our new audience to meet him. We also need to introduce ourselves, the Talkin Townball podcast, who we are and why we're here. Can't wait to get rolling. It's a beautiful day in early March. Grab a bush light, bag of popcorn, relax. It is time to talk Townball.
Under those stars where the heart beats strong, Minnesota and time is where we all belong. Cheering voices carrying through the night, the soul of the state under stadium lights.
Welcome everybody to Talkin Townball. Today is Wednesday, March 12th. We are kicking off our very first episode of this. Our round table here made up of, my name is Ryan Hayes. I am with Delano Athletics, the state's babies.
Good start.
Across the table from me, I'll let these two gentlemen introduce themselves.
Yeah, Jordan Flick with the Dassel Cokato Saints, player / manager / I don't know, whatever.
And I am John Anderson from Litchfield, Minnesota, with the Blues. I've managed the Blues. I think this is going to be my 9th year. We're excited to be here. Ryan, you mentioned you're a Delano guy. Talk to us. Let us get to know you a little bit.
Okay, so mainly it's the Townball story. Very probably similar to most of us out there in Townball world. I grew up in Maple Plain, and my grandparents were huge Townball fans, just big Townball advocates. So I grew up Townball. I mean, Major League Baseball was fine. The Twins in the 90s were terrible. They played at the Metrodome. You could go to games for like $2. Townball might have been more expensive to go to back then. But anyway, I'd get up on Sunday morning, go to church with the parents, and then my grandpa would call me, and he would rattle off the North Star League schedule and be like, hey, what game do you want to go to today? And it was usually between Loretto, Maple Plain, or Delano. He and my grandma, who we lost her in 2020. She's a huge baseball fan, though. My grandfather's been to the last 64 straight state tournaments, so that kind of speaks for itself. Anyway, so he's just nuts about Townball. So then I would they'd pick me up, and we'd go to Townball games. Maple Plain wanted me to be their bat boy, but I could not commit because I didn't want to commit to a single team back then. I was watching games in Loretto, watching games in Delano. And, Maple Plain was a great place to, watch a game Sunday afternoon. My grandfather on the other side actually built their small press box in Maple Plain, and my grandpa, the Delano-based one, has been very involved with baseball in general. Most of his adult and senior life, I guess we could call it. He'll be 88 here, and he still works and plows snow, so I don't want to give him a label. But he's the reason I love town team baseball, and just growing up, I played for Loretto for a couple years as a teenager, and then since I was a Delano grad, I ended up starting to play with Delano when I was 19, and I turned 37 back this past November. And been just involved with them and doing a little bit of coaching high school, always trying to make sure that field's looking pristine as best we can. I try to schedule everything for the summer to a senior legion, junior legion, and work Townball games and obviously as well. So that's kind of my backstory, and I'll slide it over to Jordan.
Yeah, it's like you said, most Townball stories probably pretty similar. You get into it because your family's into it and excited about it. I got into it. My dad started playing for the Saints in 1996, I want to say. I'd tag along with him as just a little guy, and I did take the bat boy route, unlike you, but I guess I didn't really have a I didn't have the LeBron-esque decision that you did. So.
Contractually, like
Yeah.
you were not unsure. You knew exactly where you're going to go.
Right. And, I'd take along with him. Me and 3-4 other kids, brothers or sons of players on the team, we would all bat boy together. Some of the most fun childhood experiences I can think of. And then by the time I was in high school, I think I was a junior, I joined the team, and I've been playing since. Recently started managing the team as well. But yeah, like you said, it's really a family affair type of deal, and I don't think I would have got into it so much if my dad wasn't into it, and if it wasn't so exciting. So that's kind of my backstory there, I guess. John, what about you?
Yeah, mine. You say everyone's got a little similar story. I mean, yeah, kind of along that route, but maybe a little bit unique. All of my family, my grandpa, my dad, my uncle, all the men on my dad's side are in the Litchfield Baseball Hall of Fame. They obviously had a big role playing. My grandpa even managed in the 50s in Litchfield. So kind of a little history there. On the baseball side of things, I wouldn't say I was spectacular by any means. I went to college at Concordia Moorhead, and I played football for 4 years. So baseball was on my radar. Obviously I loved it, but I didn't play it. I was not a guy that came back in the summers to play baseball. I was more focused on my football playing days, and it's interesting how it changes as you get older. I took a job in the cities out of college, and I wanted to coach. I wanted to get back into it, and there was an opportunity to take a job back near my hometown. It turned into, me looking for an opportunity to do something in the summer. I did play one year before I took on a managerial role with the Litchfield Blues. So more of an interesting route there than most. I know that whereas you guys are more intertwined, you've got a playing career. Jordan more active than Ryan and I, but it's everyone's got their story, albeit different, is got a lot of similarities. So that's it's kind of our backstory. As far as us three, there's a reason why we're here today together. I mean, not only did we share a league, the North Star League, for many years, we also have partnered with the state board to host the state tournament. And Delano and Dassel have always been known for their fields and their tournaments that they've hosted, and with us in Litchfield a little bit more recent than say your guys' history. But just having a little bit of a connection there has led us to, I bet there was years, when we led up to that 2023 season, that there wasn't probably a day or two that would go by where we weren't talking about something.
Yeah. I mean, we were texting each other Christmas Day. Yeah. So we hosted the 100 state tournament, of course. So good for us. Delmo, Dassel, Litch, and then who was our? Waconia. Our buddies over in Waconia.
Yeah. We forget about Waconia.
We shouldn't, though. They helped a ton.
They helped a ton.
We don't forget about Waconia.
Waconia's legit. They got some great people over there.
Amazing.
But yeah, the 100 state tournament, we found out we got it about 3 years ahead of time, and so we have literally been on a text thread. Now this is 4.5 years afterwards, where there are very few days where there isn't some sort of text back and forth between the three of us.
And sometimes, and it's weird to say this, but a lot of times it's like Timberwolf basketball.
It's
weird that
we're
that
we
we share an interest that in the state of hockey and baseball, Townball, the Vikings, Timberwolves tend to get a lot of love in our conversations, and I know that that's probably going to just like be disgusting for some people to hear because
Well, it's something to do in the wintertime, though. I mean, we in the summer it's all Townball. In winter, we're cooped up at home, and sorry, we're not hockey guys. Nothing against hockey. I love the state tournament. It just got wrapped up with, and yes, I watch game. Very interested in, and I like high school hockey especially, but. We're Timberwolves guys.
Part of us not being hockey guys none of us are probably any good at it.
No.
We don't have the background, and we don't want to speak out of turn in a state where there's a lot of good hockey.
Absolutely.
So we kind of don't touch it because that's not our
I think the only thing I'll say is it's good to see outstate hockey take it to some metro teams.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
And maybe we do have some listeners in the metro area that are, maybe they're Edina guys. I don't know if there are Edina guys out there.
The public schools hate the private schools. The outstate hates the metro schools, and everybody hates Edina. That's kind of the great tweet you see every year.
That's going to be our hockey take. You may not hear another one.
Yes. Our one hockey take is the very bland, generic hockey take.
Yeah.
So that's basically our story. There was years ago, Todd Train is the North Star League umpire coordinator, and he does a lot of West Metro umpiring and coordinating of umpires. And he was inducted to the North Star League Hall of Fame years ago as a Delano Athletic, and his speech really stood out to me because he really hit on the relationships and the friendships and essentially family that he has made simply because of Townball. And that's John, Jordan, and I. Like, we didn't know John very well until Litchfield joined the league, and then we start throwing around this state tournament stuff. And again, we're sending Christmas cards and birthdays and all this. And Jordan's daughter and my two daughters, they're good buddies. So that's because of Townball, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's crazy how it can build up, and across the state too. You see relationships, you see networks build just because of a summer game. That
I can't think of the number of times that you run into someone out in public and they're wearing an Anoka Bucks hat, or someone's wearing, whatever random Townball hat, and you're like, oh, Townball guy. And then you just get to talking to them and you don't know them, but you have that in common.
But there's connections, and you can immediately find something that will bond you to that person. It just automatically happens. It's just how it goes.
And Townball, we all have this general feeling on it that it's a pretty cool thing. And we talked about, there hasn't been a day that's gone by in the past however many years that we probably weren't texting, and that's kind of how the idea of this came up.
I want to say that the first mention of like, oh, hey, we should do a podcast. We're so interesting.
We're so interesting and different, and no one's ever had the idea of doing a podcast.
No one's ever thought about this. What we saw was an opportunity to find a platform that maybe Townball is very it's modernized itself a little bit, but for the most part it stays true to itself.
It's true baseball.
Yeah, right. So it's a little bit old timey. It's not as progressive in some ways. The Twitter's done a big it's in terms of scheduling and getting news out there, big, but the podcast where you can bring on people and learn stories, and you don't get that as much. So we wanted to find a medium for that.
Yeah, locally, we kind of know the backstories of a lot of people and teams in the area we are in, but part of this is, there are a lot of teams up north that probably don't get the love they deserve. There's a lot of teams, well, we like to call ourselves way out west sometimes.
Which is hilarious to think about because we're in central Minnesota.
Right.
It's a running joke. You hit on that, though. You talk about these teams that clearly feel a little bit disrespected in some ways. And our goal is like we're not ignorant to the fact that we're in a pretty good position, like geographically. You know, there's a reason why some teams are hosting tournaments. We want to get everybody involved, and that's the goal. You know, we want everyone to share their story, and we know that there's just as many unique stories here in Dassel and Delano and in Litchfield that there is up in, you know, Detroit Lakes or Moorhead. And it's our goal is to kind of weave all of this together, because ultimately we are all sharing the same game, and everyone deserves to be involved.
I mean, there's 300-ish teams in the state, from the southern border to the metro to the boundary waters. I mean, there's teams everywhere, and we want to give everybody a chance to talk about their Townball experience.
Yeah, and I think that if we've said this a few times now too, if you are a northern team, you kind of have that ingrained in your the attitude towards central Minnesota, southern Minnesota, that for some reason we don't like you. It's not the case. You know, it really isn't. I laugh because we went to the state tournament last year and we played Bemidji, and I think there was a quote in the paper that said, like, you know, these guys, everyone down there hates us. I feel bad for a team like Bemidji. You know, obviously the travel's difficult. You know, just to get to the state tournament, you know, your region, you might be driving, you know, an hour or two to get to your region, and just to get to the point where you have to drive 4 hours to go to the state tournament. You know, we want to give people and teams like that the same amount of respect and platform that we would anybody else. So that's kind of our goal with it.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Yeah, so we've got, like we mentioned earlier, Bryan Mccallum is going to be our leadoff for our interviews, and you know the format. This is our first time recording, so there's going to be some growing pains. I hope you can stick with us as we continue to grow, and we're just excited to get some new people, some fun interviews, and you know, our own little take on things. You know, we don't always agree on everything, and that's fair. And it's just an exciting time as we get into this 2025 season, to give us, give Townball another little platform, a boost, and we're excited.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you want, I'll kick it off with my controversial tangent if you want, or we can save it.
Let's save it for after the interview.
Okay.
I want to jump into it, obviously, but just as kind of an introduction to each of us, it was good to get that out there, and we're excited to put some episodes out here in the summer. Our goal I'm thinking we're going to try to put out an episode every week, and Wednesday right now will be a kind of our drop date. So if you'd like, on all formats, whether it's Spotify or YouTube or however we go about it, like it and follow it, and we're gonna try to be as consistent as possible. All right. So with that being said, we'll jump into our first interview. All right, we're here. First guest ever to the Talkin Townball podcast. And it's a guy that you might only know by a Twitter handle for the most part. Townball Schedule Guy on Twitter, better known as Bryan Mccallum. Bryan, good to have you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. You're, like we said, you have the honor of being our first guest. We're here with Jordan and Ryan as well, and we're excited to have you.
Well, I'm going to jump in. Are you better known as Bryan Mccallum, or are you better known as Townball Schedule Guy? And do we have to edit out the Bryan Mccallum
we'll beep your
part?
Name.
Depends on who you ask, I guess. For the most part, I think the state for baseball would probably know me as a schedule guy because, most people just don't know my name. Most people just recognize me as the big fucker from Clearwater.
We did have to kind of pieced together. Jordan kind of had to piece together like what your name was. We're like, well, what's his name? So Jordan went down a
Yeah.
little rabbit hole.
Yeah, so
Jordan's still just mad at him for trying to hit a bombs off him last year to Dassel.
trying. I mean, it was pretty close. Luckily, we have a speedy outfielder out there. But yeah, no, we've played against each other. But you had told me that you had done the schedule stuff on Twitter, and I was thinking back. I'm like, I'm pretty positive that he told me that. And then we did a little digging, and I'm like, yeah, that's Bryan. So I think I sent your Clearwater roster page to the other two saying, this is the guy. We've got it matched up here. So
Yeah, and I would say it's some people like to remain, anonymous online, and
Yeah.
it does kind of feel a little bit like we're ripping off Spider-Man's mask here, but it's like we said, exciting to have you here. And I think the one reason we wanted to get you on right away is because our podcast, we want to have a wide range of team involvement, and we want to be up and down the state. And you're kind of trying to do the exact thing with your scheduling. It doesn't matter where you're at in the state. You're looking to compile everything up and down. Can you just talk about your project a little bit real quick, and just give us an idea of what sort of work you're putting in with that?
So basically, the schedule project is currently I have it on an Excel spreadsheet. It's covering Class A, B, and C. Last year, I just did it with Class C specifically, just because that's where I was playing in. And to be honest, I mean, most people care about Class C. Or in the past, that's where most of the attendance was. Unfortunately, that's how it worked out.
Sure.
But I know I had some other teams reach out to me throughout the season last year that asked if I could expand it out just to help keep track of A and B. And now with the new realignment, it kind of made sense because you got some leagues with teams in all three classes. I know my league in particular does that. I know there's teams in the Krill that are in all three. So, I mean, I think it does help out kind of see where everybody's at. And a big part of it was, like, for me, a couple of years ago, when I first joined Clearwater, I think we were 20-3 at the time, and we were looking at the state board rankings, and like you see teams, it's almost always like the same 10 to 15 teams. You kind of wanted to find a way to call attention to teams that are having very good years that may not be getting recognition. So that first year when I was with Clearwater and we were having that amazing year, I kind of went out and just was like trying to find everybody's schedules to see where we matched up with everybody.
Sure.
And then we kind of I moved it in from there. I'm like, the following season, I'm like, God, this might just be easier just to follow along with everybody and just find scores, because it's nearly impossible to find scores for some teams or know how teams are doing. Like, there's teams out west or up north that you never find standings for or anything. So
Yeah.
you just kind of find it. I know a lot of teams don't put stuff in on the state board website, so.
Right, and we talked about that right before we started recording, but I'm guilty of that. I look at that state board website and I'm like, Waverly scheduled a game with you, and it's like, it shows Litchfield with like 2 games online, and yeah. I feel bad for any sort of random spectator. There's some things that obviously we cover a lot of ground as managers, but some things we let slip through the cracks, and that's one of them, scheduling. And
I also think it doesn't help that a lot of teams and leagues are going to like their own personal websites.
Sure.
So why would you want to have that dual responsibility and put it in 2 spots?
Sure. Right. So you're saying that when you started the project, it was more of like kind of a personal thing.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to see where like the team currently that I'd stacked up, but I had thought about that even before when I was with other teams. So I'm like, oh, this is a team that you see a state board team or like a state tournament team. And I'm like, where did this team come from?
Right.
Like, the team is that good? I'm like, I haven't even seen anything about these guys.
Sure.
Well, on that topic, I guess, of not really knowing about specific teams or leagues, are there any specific team, or I should say leagues, that are way harder to find out about than anyone else? Like you had mentioned
The Central Valley League.
Yeah,
You guys, the Central Valley's way easier. I think the one I would probably have the hardest time with would be, what is that? Landed Ducks.
okay.
That's like Appleton, Rosen, Morris, that grouping out there. I know that grouping has a hard time. They don't have like a league website or anything.
Gotcha.
Half of the teams don't have social medias or
Yeah, I was
things
gonna
like
say,
that.
is that like a lack of
Yeah.
social media presence?
I mean,
where-
and most of those teams only play like 10 to 12 games into summer.
oh, okay.
So
Oh, wow.
they do their league games, and then that's about it.
Sure.
Some of the teams up north can be a little bit difficult, like the Rainy Lake, Roseau, Warroad area. I was at Northwest Border, I believe.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
grouping can be a bit tough.
Okay.
And ironically, I think it's Twin Rivers down south of like the that Rochester area. Like some of the teams do really good, and other teams you can't find a whole lot on.
Sure.
It's very hit or miss.
Do you find yourself kind of refreshing Twitter looking for just schedule drops? I know this is like the hot time for that.
Basically, yeah. That's,
Yeah.
when my students are annoying me, I kind of just go to Twitter and start pacing. Like, I for reference, I work as a teacher, so when I need a break from my students, I'll just go on Twitter and start looking for stuff. And
Right. Do you find it more often now that you've gained a little traction? You'll get tagged in some tweets. You'll get mentioned. I mean, has your job gotten a little bit easier?
Somewhat. I know after I saw the first couple schedules, I had asked teams to kind of tag me in them to help find them a little bit easier. I think a couple teams did right away, and then that was it. So then I did an update on it, I think last week, when I said I had like a certain amount of teams like schedules for each grouping, and then I had like 4 or 5 more teams like direct message me their schedules, including Hayes.
Good job.
Yeah, well, now it'll probably change. There's a West Tonka Wave game that we need to move. But yeah, nothing big. Nothing big.
Well,
That's easy enough. That's going to be the more annoying part throughout the summer is just when you see teams readjust scheduling.
Yeah.
That's also annoying too because teams will adjust their schedule and never say anything about it. So I'm like, where's this score? Then 3 days later, I'm like, they don't have a game today. Why is there a score?
Have you, I guess, to help combat the confusion or rescheduling or adding of games, have you ever thought about potentially making your spreadsheet, where people could go in and edit it themselves, or are you kind of like hands off? This is my deal.
I would be open to help. I mean, it's a lot to cover. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I had some league managers last year wanted to gave me the DRS gave me their entire league schedule, so that helped out
That's
this year.
nice. Yeah.
So I have those guys, and I mean I had league managers come out and help give me stuff. I have there's a guy in Jordan that was telling me all of their stuff, like everything in their league if I had mistakes on there. So I mean I'd have no problem with people if they want to help, they can help.
Yeah.
I don't want to try to keep it as accurate as possible.
Right.
You had mentioned that there had been kind of this collaboration now at the state board. What exactly are you doing with them?
So Nick Gerhard had reached out to me probably December, January area, and because I had asked at the back end of the fall out on Twitter about potentially changing my spreadsheet into my own site, so that way it's a little less inputting, because as of right now it's a lot of manual inputting and it's kind of takes a long time and it's annoying. Sure. So he kind of offered the chance to do it through the state board website to help get games in, because like we stated earlier, a lot of teams don't put stuff in, or we don't see scores, and I know those guys want to see their site, get traffic to their site. They want to have updated scores and standings and things, so it's a little bit easier to find for teams. And he talked to the state board and got me access, so I've been working through my Class A schedules and getting those inputted on the state board website right now. Hopefully, eventually, I'll get to the rest of them, but it's a process.
I had noticed I received an email saying a game has been scheduled from the NBA site, and it was we're playing Anoka in May, and it says scheduled by Bryan Mccallum right there. I'm like, oh, He's working on the website right now.
Putting in the hours.
Yeah, I do a couple teams at a time, and then I get annoyed, and then I go like do other things.
That's fair.
That is fair. Yeah, how about this? If you had to put a number on it, how many regular season games do you think we have in the state of Minnesota?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm really putting you on the spot here.
Well, that's a lot of math. I don't know if I can do that off the top of my head, but how many teams do we have? Like roughly 200 state? No, I did the math. Hold on, let me find
Probably
out.
close to 3.
I think it's a hair under 300.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let's pull up the Twitter page here.
Yeah. We'll play.
I know we had the. I know I had the same amount of things on here at one point.
This is something I thought about in the shower. I was like, you know what? I do want to know
many
this.
teams?
Because if you think about it over a summer, I mean, it's got to be an incredible amount.
Yeah, so 62 teams in A, 73 in B, and 138 in C. So that's what, 135, 273, if I'm counting right?
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Good
play.
Brian's
Yep.
double checking the math over there.
And
Maybe.
I'm bad at math, so we're going to go 273.
273 it is.
So I would say most teams roughly play 20 to 25 games in a summer. So you're, whatever that is, 273 times 25.
A lot of crossover games, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's still going to have to input them.
That's roughly
Right.
6,500
spreadsheet.
games.
Yeah, that's
That you're
Throughout-
going to be inputting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
On the spreadsheet at least.
You
On the
got
state board website, it might be a little less, but
Sure.
but we're hoping to make it more, and that's where you come in.
I would hate you for that. Don't make me hate you.
All right.
No, but obviously you got to be passionate about it to want to take on a project like that, and obviously there's a lot of benefit for not only you personally, but for the state. I mean, obviously people are going to benefit from that. So, really cool thing. I think we might even put the cart before the horse. We really didn't get to meet kind of what you as a person. We didn't really talk about that. Can you give us kind of your Townball, your story as far as where did you grow up? When did you get into Townball?
So I graduated from Rogers High School in 2009. They had a Townball team that was started by one of my high school coaches when I was like a sophomore, I want to say. I didn't join up with them until the year after I graduated from high school, because my senior year of high school I blew out my shoulder pitching in our section playoffs. Ooh. So I couldn't play that summer, so I came back after my freshman year of college and started playing then for Rogers. I think I played 2 or 3 years for them, and there were some issues like with guys showing up, and it just got frustrating. So I left, and I ended up playing a year with the Class A team with a bunch of guys from college down at Northwestern in St. Paul. And then I got hooked up with a couple people that I was coaching with at the time for hockey, and that's how I ended up playing for the old Rockford River Bandits team, and ended up getting a couple nice connections from there. And then once that team folded, I ended up going back to Rogers, where I became the pseudo manager for a couple years before I got basically handed it without ever being told I was being handed it.
It tends to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, there's teams where that absolutely is the case.
Yeah, so then I managed, I think that my first year of that was 2019, and man, was that a rough year, because we had a decent roster, and then half the roster quit like a week before the season. And so I had to sign a bunch of high school kids who went to the state tournament that year, and I had to back out of a tournament like 4 days before the tournament started. And I was like, I can't. I have 8 guys for the tournament, and my other high school kids can't go play.
Sure.
And let's just say somebody on Twitter did not like that very much. That's now a defunct team, so people can make that assumption on who that would have been.
Sure. We don't shy away from the Twitter squabbles. We're fans, but
Let's just say I made a call out for sort of saying, sorry, I had to sign a bunch of high school kids who are now in the state tournament, and I can't go out and recruit everybody else's best players.
yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, absolutely. So your Townball career had some ups and a lot of downs to start.
So, and yes, I am still actively playing. I am in my 3rd year now with Clearwater, and you'll see me on the field a lot because that's what I do.
Yeah, Clearwater, the River Cats, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're
We don't have the River Cat logo, but it's the CW one.
CW.
You have your own network then. You have your own television
Congrats.
station.
I'm pretty sure Dawson's Creek is on the CW.
Oof.
Is that right?
Yeah, Dawson, he's the third baseman, I think, for the River Cat.
So tell us about Clearwater now. When did they come into actually? When were they formed?
So I believe I don't remember if this is year 6 or year 7 for them. They started right around that 2019-2020 season, I believe. I'm not exactly sure. I remember being part of the Sauk Valley League when they were coming in, and there was some discussions and some disputes that happened, and like they were played as an independent team that first year they were a team, and then they came into the Sauk Valley, and then we've kind of gone from there. And I'm the old guy on the team at 34. The next we're going to be signing a guy who's moved down to Big Lake. He's from Midway. He's the next oldest guy at 30. Then everybody else is basically 25 to 22.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been a fairly young team the entire time I've been with them. But we've had a couple. I think that we've had 3 straight 20-win seasons the last 3 years.
That's
so
great.
Yeah, I'll say this: Jordan and Dassel, you've had Clearwater. I don't know how many times there.
I know we've played you the
handful
last
for
2
sure.
years for sure.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times at least over the past few years, and they've always been really good competitive games. I don't want to talk about pitching to you. That's not fun for me.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. We scheduled Clearwater. We had you guys in Litchfield.
And honestly, I think I facilitated that game.
Oh yeah.
We were sitting at me and the manager were sitting at the bar and happened to see the tweet. I'm like, you want to go to Litchfield?
Yeah, and to be honest, it worked out great. It's one of those like a non-league game. Let's get you in here. It's fun to see new blood, on the field, and yeah, definitely a good young team. I was very impressed. I think out of the gate, Clearwater, we were obviously very aware of the team. There was talks of maybe trying to get them in the North Star League early on. Unfortunately, the timing was not, great with that. But it sounds like you guys have settled in pretty well.
Yeah, I would think so. It feels like it at least. I know our manager's the league president, and he's our region commissioner. Oh, he was the region commissioner. I don't know. I think he's a co-commissioner now with the Eastern Mini side that we got put with. So
Sure. Well, good stuff. I mean, do you have any? Is there any outlook for this season? I know you said it's mostly a young crew.
there's going to be. We got a couple of kids coming back that haven't been able to play with us the last couple of years due to injury. We're excited about that. Excited about a couple new guys coming in that we know of, and we've lost a couple guys, which is I think par for the course for any team. Guys go back and forth and in and out. But overall, we should have another good year as long as we show up and play the game. Mm-hmm. There's games that you just obviously don't and you struggle, but if we show up and play like we can, we have a good shot at doing some damage.
Absolutely. No, I'll say this too. We've got a team in our North Star League, Waverly, that they like to schedule games. They like to schedule games early. I've noticed Clearwater, they're putting games on the schedule.
Yeah, we tend to play a lot of early games.
No, I think we matched up against you guys. It was like our 6th or 7th game, and at that point, you guys had played like 20 games. I want to say you were like 18-2 or so. It was like you had already put down a ton of games.
That's tough to do.
It is.
In Minnesota in April.
Our first game right now is scheduled for April 16th, I want to say, against Eden Valley.
Okay.
And then we play Montrose, I think, the following week on like the 26th.
Montrose Waverly.
Well, is Izzy and Rob, they're buddies, I feel like, and they always seem like they're couple games every year.
Yeah, we try to get them at least once a year.
Okay.
For us, it's a good as bad as that sounds, it's for us, it's a good warm-up game to kind of get going.
For everybody,
Yeah.
It's a good warm-up. Literally, it's like you have to wear a sweatshirt when you're at the game.
Yeah.
We try to play a lot of non-league games before we start getting into our league games. That way we're kind of ready to go because our league has some good teams in it. Mm-hmm. We've got the Cold Spring Springers, the Muskies, I mean, St. Joe's no joke. Monticello, there's some good teams in there.
So what is your feeling, and you might have to hold back because I don't know where everybody sits on this, the decision to go to 3 classes, mixing up or splitting up of some regions, now districts and sections. I'm going to ask everybody that comes on this show.
I mean, it affects everybody.
It affects everybody. I have my feelings on it that I'll probably express, and not every single one's positive. I do like some stuff about it. I'm really excited for Litchfield over here. To me, they're going to win Class C. I'm going to say that right now.
okay.
I think
This is a big wood table, and I'm going to knock on it. Here.
Actually, I think I had them. Somebody asked me who I thought were the favorites for each grouping at one point earlier, like a couple weeks back, and I think I had you guys in the top 3.
Yep.
With like
I
Portland
agree.
and somebody else.
It's the hype train. We just gotta
You
keep
guys
our
do have
head
the
down.
you
John
do have
does
the
not
pitching for
wanna
it. though.
Every episode, I will bring it up.
We got a good young team. I'm not this, but the interview is about Clearwater and Ryan, so let's stick to that. Yeah, back to Ryan's question. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I understand the reasoning to going back to 3 classes. I mean, I think it's going to be tough because I don't know if the point totals is the right way to go, especially when it comes to, like, for instance, you saw, I don't know how many teams, there had to have been about 4 or 5, at least 5 teams that went from C to A. And, I mean, can those teams compete in A? Probably. But, I mean, that's a big jump, and, I mean, some of it is not very geographically located very well. I mean, for instance, like Waconia and St. Bonnie playing with, like, Eastern, like, I think it's like Victoria, Chaska-Chan,
Shakopee.
Shakopee. So some of that, yes, makes sense, but, I mean, I feel like when they had it, those A teams should be more of like that inside the loop type thing that they used to be before. But I understand it too because, I mean, A baseball in the cities is probably dying. Like, demographics are changing, and I think it's harder to get teams down there because you rely so much on college kids. And those college kids are mostly going back home in the summer to play with their home teams. I don't mind that they took up some of the, like, top half of C, like those perennial state tournament teams that we see at C, like, sorry Hayes, but Delano and Jordan and some of those guys going up to B. I have no problem with that. I'm not sold on how that played out because if you look at leagues now, you have leagues in all 3 classes. You have split leagues in both in A, B, and C.
And that's never happened before.
Yeah.
We've never had where there's leagues are represented by 3 different classes before.
And I think that is a huge detriment to league play because, honestly, if you're a C team in your league playing an A team in your league, what's the motive for you to try to go win that game?
Yeah.
I feel like it did a lot of damage to interleague play and that reasoning to win that league to help with your playoff status.
Do you think that might, and I'm just spitballing here a little bit, but do you think that might, leagues might want to change formats or how they maybe are structured, or maybe we see more leagues with smaller amounts of teams?
I mean, I think after this year, I think this is kind of like that big test year for this whole thing. I think there's a good chance you will see either teams fold because of having to drive for playoffs or things like that, or you see a lot of teams moving leagues to try to get more geographically located to what they need to have for like their league and regions.
Sure. I think another option too might be, rather than more leagues, you see leagues combined too.
Well, and I know that happened up north. It was the Lake and Pine and High 10. I saw this earlier in the year because they were put in 2 different regions. And I think one of the leagues had like 7 teams, and the other league had 4 because like 3 or 4 teams from the 4-team league folded last year. Right. So this year they combined. So now I don't know exactly what the proposal was for those for that league because they were in 2 different regions. Are they all going to be in one region? Or are they going to still be in the different ones? I haven't seen anything about it yet, but
Well, that's kind of my big thing on it is if they're going to move teams up and down every single year, that's going to affect your league or your region or your district or section.
I think it's going to be hard to get some sort of consistency.
That's the thing, like where teams just going to change, go back and forth from this league to that league every single year. I mean, right now with John and Jordan, do you have 4 Central Valley League teams that are making up your region with the North Star leagues? I mean,
Yeah, we're split.
I mean,
6 North Star.
if they want to jump in the North Star, or you want to make your own league, and then all of a sudden 2 or 3 get bumped to B, then now what does that do? And then kind of going back to your early point, us 3 went to 3 years worth of state board meetings, so this has been discussed at those meetings too. And I think the hard thing with like teams jumping from C to A, or even sometimes B to A, is the sustainability of it. The big team that I threw out a couple times was Sobieski.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were in Class B. And yes, they could be in Class B after they won a couple state titles in C, but if they can't replenish because of population or where they're located, they're not going to be able to sustain that. I talked to like a Joe Krieger with Green Isle years ago. They won a state tournament. That was like 2001, and I think people thought, well, they were going to win it every single year. They won one.
Yep.
So it's like I get, okay, you bump a team up for a year or 2, and then they win. Keep bumping them back and forth. How sustainable is it to keep bumping a team up because of where they're located too?
I mean, and I can tell you for instance, it was the Cold Spring Springers, because when they joined petitioned to join our team last year. Their region last year was like the Bemidji's, Moorhead, like the Shakopees, and they struggled to get guys to games because nobody wants to drive an hour to a game. Like, why would we want to go spend a weekend up in Moorhead when I can just sit down here and do my own thing, or things like that? It's hard for like those teams to kind of do stuff like that.
Yeah, there's definitely some leagues have to travel a lot more than others. I can't remember the team that tweeted out, yeah, we're driving 210 miles to our.
That's got to be up in like the Northwest border, with like Detroit Lakes
and I
or
feel for those
Red River teams.
Yeah, I feel for those teams because geographically, I mean, it stinks they have to drive that far, but that's also like the closest team to them. So I think that's tough too. I don't know. As far as the classes and the realignment here, I will say this: I don't envy the state board's job trying to figure this out.
I don't either.
I know, just in talking with them, I know that they're trying to do what is best for the state, but there's definitely think that we're all hoping it shakes out, but
I mean, I think, like you said, this is going to be a big test year to see how it's going to work. I mean, you can have your reservations about it, but you kind of just got to see how it plays out too. And I think that's what basically we're all in that mode right now. How is this going to work?
Yeah, and we're all Townball guys. We want to see it succeed, so we're hoping whatever decisions are made work out. But who knows?
Yeah, right. I'll say this: it's put a little bit more on the plate in terms of the leagues, who's running the leagues, the managers. I mean, you have to be flexible, and it does feel like sometimes you're bending over backwards a little bit. But talking about like our league schedule, and you said, yeah, it's going to be detrimental to league play. Yeah, I mean, I look personally at our schedule now. It's loaded with C games from the North Star, but we're still playing our B teams in the North Star. And the question was brought up. I think Jordan and I were both questioning, what's the motivation to go to Maple Lake right now and throw your ace? You're not going to throw your ace.
Yeah.
You're not going to put out your best, maybe your best lineup. You're putting guys out there that you normally would, like if I was playing Clearwater, you'd see my 14th, 15th guy off the bench or whatever. It's just it takes away a little bit from that spark that we had. Hutchinson, Maple Lake, the Delanos, it meant something when we would go there or they came to us, and now it's kind of shifted. And
it'll be a different feel.
It's a different feel. It's going to be something that it makes these C games a little bit more important, obviously, but to have a league mate in like I keep mentioning Hutchinson and Maple Lake, because they are kind of that team you get up and you really want to play hard against, and now it kind of changes that whole vibe.
Yeah, I don't say. I feel like you do lose some of that rivalry game type feel to a lot of these league games now. Like for us, like our biggest games, we always wanted to get up and beat them with Sartell Muskies. That's always between them and St. Joe. Those are our two big ones that we always want to win every year. I mean, the Muskies are an A team and St. Joe's is B team, and we're one of 3 C teams in our league.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's like, do we still try to go out and win those games? Do we try to just go through the motions to get guys in? Knowing us, we'll go all out, but that's just us personally. But
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I can't speak for every team, obviously, but I think the majority of teams, they're still going to try to go out and play their best game with whatever guys you're playing.
Yeah.
You want to
win
win every game. Like for us, we'll go play Loretto now, and they are B, we are C, and that might not matter so much for our region record or seed by the end of the year, but we're still going to go try to beat them, and they're going to try to beat us, even though we're C. The difference is, it's just maybe it's a different guy pitching. Maybe there's an extra guy or two in the lineup that wouldn't necessarily be in there. There's a lot of strategy involved, so I think that's another part.
Well, I think you're going to probably roll out the best guys you have, and
Right.
maybe not the next guy who's supposed to pitch is going to pitch. But the big thing's going to be what happens in that 7th, 8th inning. You're winning by a run or two. Say we ran into this a couple years ago. We were playing Hamel on a Friday night at their place. We're beating them 2-1. And we use a guy as a closer. His name is Jake Nelson, and I'm kind of talking to a couple of the veteran guys, our manager, Steve Allen, like, oh, should we get Nelson warmed up and win this? And Ryan, we got Hutch on Sunday. And I said, right, I get that point. Well, you got to save him for Hutch. Well, and I don't know what the outcome of the Hutch game was, but we'll just say it was team
Right.
whatever in our region at the time. Well, then what if you go beat them 10-1 and then you didn't use your guy Friday or Sunday?
You have a chance to win a ball game right now.
Right.
Maybe you do it. Like,
In a high leverage position, you want to use a guy like that.
well, and like you said, maybe you didn't use Nelson against Hutch. Well, then what do we save him for?
were you just looking at using Nelson for only like a 2-inning save?
Yeah, so we've kind of
And then was he going to start that Sunday game?
no.
Or just like a reliever in that game?
Nelson's always kind of been our pseudo closer. We've always had a closer too, always lined up. Wait, you guys look at me like that. Well, Jake's my age, so he's about 35, 36, and he's had some arm issues because he would kind of go all out at the beginning of the year, and he moved out to Delno a few years ago, and he's like, I love pitching, and but he ramps it up, and then you lose him for the 3 or 4 weeks because his arm doesn't feel good. So you kind of have to use him, and there's 2 or 3 guys we have that's like, they're good for a couple innings a week.
Okay.
So but we've legit had Jake Nelson's been our closer. Jordan and John know, Nelson will come in at the end of the game if it's close, and he's just kind of our guy. But I was like, well, you can probably use him every other game, but what we run into then is you win a couple games, and it's like you got to get him in. You got to get him innings too.
right.
So in other words, you don't want people throwing 3 complete games in 4 days. So 22 innings and about 300 pitches.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Who do you have?
That was me. Oh, I did that a couple years ago.
No, we watch the pitch count pretty close, but we have
What's a pitch count?
Never heard of it.
To me, every guy's different. That 100 number is fake to me. It's every guy's different. We've had Max Otto. He's like, Ryan, I don't feel good until I'm at pitch 90. And then we have guys that are like, maybe 70 today.
I think that's pretty common. I mean, you've got a guy like Nelson who, when he's out there, very good, but maybe he can't throw the next game or 2 after that. And then Bryan can go out there and throw 3 in a row and just shove for 20.
I do not recommend doing that.
Was that for Rockford?
I was with Rogers at the time. Half of my pitching staff decided to go on vacation together during the last week of the regular season. We had a bunch of rainouts that were scheduled that last week. So I pitched a complete game on Thursday, We had a game Saturday. My only other pitcher that was still around pitched that game, and I pitched both ends of a doubleheader on Sunday.
That's an admirable.
Yeah.
You were managing the team at that time. You're like, you know what? I'm just gonna jump on my back, guys.
We did have one other guy that could throw in that doubleheader, but it's a guy that he hadn't pitched all season, and I had no idea what he could do. So we won the first game of that doubleheader, and we needed to win the second game because it was a league game. And that second game, we were like, well, we need to win this game to stay out of like the playing game. So I was like, well, I'm still feeling fine. I'm gonna start and see what happens. And of course, we didn't. We were down like 3-1 at the time going into like the final couple innings. I'm like, okay, they're still not hitting me great. I'm still feeling okay. I don't really want to throw you in there because I don't want this to just fall apart. So I'm just gonna stay in there. So you can just stay in the outfield. We'll figure it out. And if we get in trouble, you go in. And luckily, somehow or another, it didn't happen. We ended up coming back to win the game. So
It's impressive. It really is. I mean, I think ultimately it's going to be up to the managers. You know, you talk about different guys approach games differently, and it's going to be a feeling out process instead of 8 non-league games where, just speaking personally, we're going to have 16 non-league games. And so things change. And for a roster that, if say you're carrying 18, 20 guys, which is kind of rare, it gives opportunities for some of these guys. But
I would say that's us that's Clearwater in a nutshell.
Clearwater in a nutshell. You guys did. You brought out an army last year.
We always have probably 15 guys at every game.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
We have a ton of guys.
Sure.
It gets annoying in the dugout sometimes, but we can figure it out.
Yeah, you got to find a...
There's some small
I want to go sit down.
But, getting guys opportunities, and I think, too, the expectation, if guys come into the year and say, oh, we've got all these non-league games, I'm going to get 20 more at-bats. It's like, yeah, maybe, you just can't make promises like that. But, again, it's how the managers approach these games, and it's a direct result of a statewide decision. It's crazy how big of an impact it's going to have, but we've got to stay flexible and just see how it goes,
Yeah.
Don't rule out the idea of a North Star League Cup, though, guys.
North Star League Cup. Yeah, Ryan,
So I had an idea for these
minute.
guys.
Ryan has an idea.
Let's hear this.
Oh, okay. So you got Dasco Cato, Jordan. You got Litchfield John here. They're in Class C. They're going to play all the Class C teams in the North Star League twice. They're going to play all the B teams once. So now our discussion has been that game against Loretto and Hutchinson and Maple Lake counts for a guy to get his 4 games in. It counts for statistics, but in the standings, not really counting. So I threw out every game matters, and at the end of the year, it'll be unbalanced because I think the B teams will end up playing a game or 2 less. But just take winning percentage. And then the winner is the winner of the North Star League. I threw out $500-$600 cash prize for bookie. I think he'd go for it. But yeah, then you just have but I don't know, some sort of incentive. And I think the leagues are going to have to get creative. Us over in the Crow, we don't play all the C teams. We play 4 of them, and then there's 4 of them that we won't play. So it would be tricky, but I kind of a call out to the leagues. Hey, get creative with it then. Try to put some incentive. We all have... sometimes we have league dues, sometimes we don't. Well, maybe give a team $200 out of the, whatever winnings or plus the trophy.
I know our league is kind of doing something similar, but we're still having a league champion between everybody. But so obviously we have our C teams. We're playing each other twice. We play the B teams once, the A teams once. But if we have multiple games against the other classes, we'll just say the first game, only that first game matters for standings. The second game can just be for playoff eligibility reasons.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to get creative with it. I think that's Ryan, your idea there, that's cool. I think that's something, or things like that, leagues will have to look into it, and I think that would be good just because it keeps everything competitive. And like you said, there's some incentive there.
You need to keep competitive baseball. I mean, as much as you want those tune-up games, competitive games are why we play. That's why we're out there. and the more that you can put a competitive product on the field, the more people are going to enjoy it. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be a fun year. I'm excited for it. Brian, are you starting to ramp up? I mean, as we get close to the end of our discussion here today, kind of just give us an idea how your spring looks.
You talking for like me personally, or
personally? The Clearwater, the River Cats.
Well, I know the River Cats have been doing like off-season stuff at MASH in St. Cloud since like mid-December. I'm about a month out of having elbow surgery, so I haven't done anything.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I got hit by a pitch in Luxembourg. Thanks, JT.
Call out JT.
Yeah, he hit me straight on the elbow, and and I happened to be pitching that game, and that was my first at bat of the game, and then turned into a strain because I kept pitching on it because I didn't really feel anything at the time. Turned into an elbow strain, and then everything fell apart after. Ended up with a bunch of scar tissue, so it was locking it out. So I had to get that fixed.
Okay, so it was an adventure this offseason.
Yeah, a little bit.
Back into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you're getting healthier, and your outlook on the year. You're going to give the River Cats some innings, though. I mean,
I have been planning on it. I'm hoping to be ready by the first game of the season.
Perfect.
At least I don't know about throwing wise, but I'll be ready to hit.
You'll be out there in April throwing 3 consecutive complete games.
You want to know an even funnier story?
Yes.
So my first time with Clearwater, our first game, I was joining that team. I was also coaching a hockey tournament down on White Bear Lake, and we had a game in Roscoe. I leave my tournament on a Sunday, about halfway through our game, saying I have to go coach in something else. I get to our game in Roscoe about 5 minutes before the game. The manager literally hands me my jersey. He goes, "You're batting third."
Wow.
And I go, "Okay." Get my jersey on. I'm literally putting my cleats on, and I'm on deck. And I kid you not, I hadn't swung a bat in 3 months. I haven't swung since fall ball. And my first at bat, I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. Hit a double to the gap. I go, I quit.
You want to end on a high note there.
Oh, that's great. We love that. It was awesome having you here today. We're going to try to pump the Twitter account. That's ultimately why you're here. Do you have anything you want to say about the Twitter account? Do you want to throw out a little,
Yeah, what is the handle
I think it's just TB Schedule Guy.
TB Schedule Guy. It sounds
right.
It sounds right. But hey, if you're not aware of TB Schedule Guy or Townball Schedule Guy on Twitter, go out, give him a follow, and the more help, the more of a network that you build, the easier your job will be.
Oh, that's for dang sure.
Yeah. So we're just hoping that if we can, gain a platform here, get as much of a spotlight on you as we can, make your life a little bit easier. But do you guys have anything otherwise you'd want to?
Oh, thanks for coming.
This
was fun.
And his Twitter, we're sticking with Twitter though, right? We're not doing that.
It's so wild.
X just sounds. It sounds almost like a porn website.
Yeah, we don't want to go down that road.
All right, just remember, the Twitter account is not affiliated with the state board, so keep those burner account hatred.
Keep them at bay.
Keep him at bay. He's doing a great service to us Townball Bobos out there. So, help him out any way, shape, or form with schedules and scores, and just keep the hatred towards like political stuff.
Once again, much appreciated.
Yeah. Once again, Brian, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it, and have a great year.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
Welcome back to Talkin Townball. You just heard from Bryan Mccallum, the Townball Schedule Guy, on Twitter at TB Schedule Guy. Awesome guest. That was fun.
It was a good time. Anytime you're putting a face and a name to a Twitter account, that is active in Townball. I think that's always fun. Good to meet him, and excited for kind of what he's up to. He's we've mentioned it in the interview too, but definitely doing a service for Townball. And
yeah, everybody in the Townball world, send them your stuff, send them your schedule at TB schedule guy. That helps him out a ton.
Absolutely. Ryan, you hinted at something in our introduction.
I'm just so fired up about that.
yeah,
something
and
very
you're just-
controversial.
The fire is burning.
Well, here's my big tangent. Here's my big soapbox. The thing that has
boy.
been eating away at me
Keeping them up at night.
about the reclassification and the districts and the regions and the sections is it took me a couple years where I think I had it down, which team was in which region, and now they're changed. You could be like, 6C, Ryan, who's in 6C? Well, that's, the Jordan region. That's, the River Valley League, and they match up with the 1360. So your Blue Earth, your Waterville, Morristown, Region 8. Well, that's the Victory League. 15 Stearns. We were in 12 with the North Star League. Obviously, the Crow River Valley 7C. Or, you could try to, get me with like a 5C, but that was, the classic Cannon Valley with Cannon Falls and Red Wing. And Jordan's favorite team, Hampton. That he pitched against in the state tournament.
It was not fun.
Oh, sorry, I had to do that to you. But that's what's really upsetting is now I have to relearn all these districts and regions.
You're saying your biggest gripe here is when it comes to Townball Trivia Night at Dave's Town Club, you're not going to be able to name every region or section or whatever anymore.
I don't even know what number district. Now I got to do the district. I don't even know what district. I think it's still... We're in 7 with our Crow River Valley League teams, but yeah, I don't know what your region is numbered technically.
We're Region 6, and,
Yeah.
and it is a
I'll be honest.
combination.
Half of 12. We
Yes,
all used to
that's
be in
how
12.
that's how we got to
Half.
remember it,
Okay.
because it's half North Star League teams. We're Region 6. There's 6 North Star League teams. We're combining with 5 CVL teams. We now make up Region 6. That's what that is.
And
It's a lot easier, like from my approach to I never understood any the alignment before the realignment. I hardly understood 12C.
all right. Well, we're about to wrap up here, but before we do, I'll ask you guys, not really a realignment question, but you have 6 North Star League teams and 4 Central Valley League teams. So the big question I want to know,
5.
I think it's 5. Yeah.
5.
Yep.
not important. Come on, guys. 6 and 5. You guys have discussed. We've talked about the text back and forth. How's it coming along? Setting up what your region playoffs and or league playoffs crossover. So number 1, are you playing the Central Valley League teams during the regular season? And how is your playoffs kind of? We'll kind of walk it off with that.
Yeah. I can take this. We've obviously met. We've talked. I'm sure every league in the state has done the same. The good in all of this is if you did want to make an adjustment to how your league playoffs or your region was approached, you can do it now because you don't feel as locked in as you had before. In terms of how we are going to approach the regular season, I've seen North Star League C teams schedule some CVL teams, and I haven't personally scheduled any. When we play in the region or
Scared of them.
Yeah, scared of them. We're absolutely. What's interesting is when we go to regions, and this is going to be a first for us, whether it's the play-in or the region or however you want to look at it, it's going to be the first time we see a lot of these teams, and that's the unknown is a little scary.
Well,
obviously.
I think change in any way can be scary, like you said, whether
Yeah.
you're playing these teams or not, or you run into a team the first time you've never seen before, and now this is a game that's deciding, are you advancing in your postseason?
Yeah.
You touched on it. It'll take some getting used to, obviously, with new teams involved, but the cool part about it is it's something new, something fresh.
Something new, something fresh, and it's it's definitely interesting as far as the makeup of the region, the type of teams that are going to be competing. The North Star League, and obviously like the CRVL, they're known for having it's up top to bottom, it's a difficult region to battle through. That North Star League region was an absolute, grind when you look back at it too. They're going to be going and meeting up with some teams closer to that St. Cloud region in that B side. But boy, a lot of good teams making a lot of moves. It's just the amount of change it could be overwhelming. We're just going to see how it goes.
And actually, the change is changing back to how it actually used to be in the early 2000s, shortly after Townball went to Wood Bats, because I do remember Loretto and Maple Plain and the North Star League East would match up with the Central Valley League team. They would play Watkins and Eden Valley in the playoffs. The Central was all your Class B teams, Dassel, Cokato, Delano, Maple Lake Hutch, St. Michael, and usually they'd throw a Hamel or a Winstead and Plato in there. But then the North Star League West teams, they would match up with a totally different league. So if people don't like that change, well, it's actually kind of how it used to be 20 years ago.
Time is a flat circle.
Yeah.
And we will always, changing or not, we probably will go back to something we've done before. But yeah.
The thing about Townball, obviously, you've got a lot of young people involved. And say, like, we're at this point, if you're a 45, 50-year-old fella and you're attached to a team, whether it's managerial or as a fan, you're at that point where, like, it's been this way for this long. Now we're seeing change. If it wasn't broke, did we need to fix it? I don't know. But like you said, it's kind of reverting back to kind of where it was previously with a lot of things. So it's a lot to follow and a lot to keep track of, and that's kind of why we want to be on the airwaves as well. We can kind of pick through, how are things going, and you're going to hear a lot from our perspective of like area teams, but we want more input from teams all over the state, and that's our goal. We talked about that.
It's good to hear from everybody.
Kind of in our introductory segment, we want to get everybody involved, especially teams that maybe their voice doesn't get heard as much, because we look at some of these regions up north, and boy, it can be a mess up there.
Well, it's a different kind of gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine driving 150 miles to go.
Well, like when Delano played in Litchfield for the regions, that's about
300.
That was
we were the exit before the.
That was a short airplane flight to
Mount Rushmore. The exit.
The
before
train
Mount
tickets.
Rushmore for us.
Train tickets were cheap though, so you were lucky. We like to joke that we are kind of the redheaded stepchild of the North Star League, which is hilarious to think about because we're so far out west. It's a 50-mile drive for some of these teams.
It was one team, and the rest of us just ran with the joke.
we like to,
but no joke. There are sections, regions, districts where that is the case. Where we're not joking. It is 100+ mile drive, and you got to go that far, and then you got to get fired up to play a baseball game after being in the car that long. Like that's
it's interesting. It's the realignment. You're gonna hear. Actually, we can hint at our next episode too. While we're here, we're going to get John Garrett's state board member on our next episode, and we'll kind of touch a little bit on that realignment as we go. But it's a lot to talk about. It's a lot to cover. We're excited to jump into this season and just kind of see how things go. So, with that being said, I mean, if you guys have anything else you want to mention before we log off here.
Oh, this is fun. Hopefully, we didn't bore you.
We are having a lot of fun, and I hope that kind of comes through on the airwaves. We're having a really good time. It's more of a passion project. I mean, obviously, we're hoping that this can get rolling, but if nothing else, if it's just our friends and our parents listening, we're having
good
fun.
Enough. Yeah.
So, again. It's been good having you, and until next time, just have a great spring. Get going on the bats. Obviously, it's kind of that time of year, and until next time, we'll talk to you later.